not that PACE kids are competitive, it's that they're always willing to help each other. I think is the main goal.
I have to say too that as a teacher, one of the things that struck me about the program right away and has continued every year to strike me is that, you know, when I went to school, there were a lot of cliques. There were a lot of, and you didn't venture outside, at least you had to have closet friends, you know, and these other kids. That's not how it is in PACE. Kids walk in the door and I don't see, as a faculty member, I don't see cliques. I see kids that are genuinely nice to each other, and they laugh and they play with their teachers, and I just don't see the cliques happening. So honestly, I think that the camaraderie is very sincere and very widespread. Yes.
How many students come in as freshmen? How many students do you take? And how many at the end of the year decide, you know what, this isn't my program, maybe it's a little too hard, and decide to drop out?
We usually have about a 10% attrition rate over the 4 years. Now that includes families that have moved, and so forth. And it tends to come in spurts. So we'll have 1 year where 2 people leave the program. We'll have another 3 years where no one leaves the program. So over the 4 years, it's about 10% total.
And what was the total number of students you gave the freshmen?
175 to 185. And that's because if someone has that HSI score the same as 5 other people, then we'll take all 5 with that HSI. We don't throw our names out of the hat or pick the tuba player or whatever. I mean, anybody that we're about numbers.
No, pick the tuba player.
Andy is always in the office begging for the tuba. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
So one of the characteristics at Rogers is that it's a lot of projects, and there's a lot of creativity infused into those. And I wonder how many of the assignments have, you know, some flexibility into them, or any creative aspect to them, or are there projects?
You know, I know that our U.S. history teacher does a lot of creative projects, and Dan, don't you?
Yeah, in the second semester we do a lot of creative projects in the second semester. Not so much in the first, because we do a lot of logic and things like that, which in itself is creative. So, but no, I don't do a lot of things like with boards and stuff like that. So.
It depends on the class.
Yeah.
It depends. There are some classes where it's pretty straightforward rigor, and there's some classes that have scope for a lot of that. So it very much, it varies class by class. Students, your thoughts on that?
I would say that a lot of the projects, like Skylar said, aren't like busy work, but they're more like to show your understanding of the subject that you're learning about. Like last year in history, we got to pick something that we wanted to do a project about. Some people did like a period of time or like a subject in history that they found interesting. And it just like, it's to show your teacher that you understand the concept that you're learning.
In chemistry, we have a ton of labs, which are, I guess, kind of like mini projects. In computer science, we're making town right now. What are you making?
It's computer science after all.
Question. Does the PACE program cause there to be 2 separate high schools inside the same high school?
No. Actually, Poly has been divided into small learning communities or academies for a long time, and that's being strengthened by a district-wide move that is trying to align small learning communities to career paths. And so we've had these small learning communities or academies. There have been 4 regular academies, regular education academies, PACE, CIC, and PACRIM. And we've had that certainly since I've been there, and that's 17 years. So everybody belongs to a specific small learning community. PACE just happens to be the one that's very academic. But the kids...
The history of that also. There used to be way back, in the 80s, that the PACE classes.
Way back. Go back a little further.
I can only go back to the 80s, sorry. But the PACE classes were like all in one building and they kind of sort of separated. And probably 15, maybe 20 years ago now, I lose track of it, one of the moves we made in improving the campus was putting everybody on the same bell schedule. PACE for a while was on a separate bell schedule, so they were very isolated. They are now on the same schedule as everybody else, and their classes are all over the place. So it's not like there's the PACE group here. Now, they're within the class. If they're in PACE geometry, they're in a PACE class. But their electives are completely mixed, and their classes are spread all over the campus. They're not getting physical isolation at all. They're part of everything. You take 4 classes in any given year. 4 of your classes have to be PACE classes. The other 3 are free because you're taking 7 classes. So you're part of PACE for at least 4/7 of your day or routine or whatever. The others, it's PE, often a sport, an elective, a foreign language, and there you mix and mingle with the rest of the college.
Except actually, foreign language now, we have specific,
Pace,
that's
yeah.
joined before, yeah. So
Yeah.
now the foreign language classes, at least in French and Spanish, are specific to French. Make a lot of those as well.
You kind of get the benefits. It's kind of an interesting mix because in a way you're in a small school because you're in a school of 185 times 4. Okay, and you have the same kids, or from the same 185 kids in all of your core classes, who all have the same counselor, who all share the same teachers. And then at the same time, you mix and mingle the other 3/7 with 4,500 kids, in great big polys. So it's interesting because you get kind of the dose of small school and the dose of big school at the same time.
So what is the average class sizes that the teachers have?
31, isn't it?
Yeah, and that's set by the district by contractual maximums, the district and the union. And so teachers are supposed to have 185 students per year, and if you divide that into 6 classes, which these teachers teach, that comes out to 30 or 31 per class. Now, sometimes, because of scheduling difficulties, there will be 34 in one class and 26 in another. But in general, it's 30 or 31.
By definition, your PACE core classes are slightly smaller because the teacher is carrying the same load spread over 6 periods
Instead of
instead of 5.
Yes, go ahead.
I have a question about the electives. If you do a sport, does that mean you get 2 electives?
Yes.
And they can be in whatever you want?
Your sport is usually 7th period. I think some sports, like when it's off season, it might be a period before.
Yeah,
Baseball is 6 off-season.
but that does not create an elective. Sport counts as your PE.
Oh, sports is a PE, which
Yeah.
is not an elective.
Right.
Sports counts as your PE class.
And it's a class. Sports is a class.
Yes, so it counts as your 7th period, and along with that, for example, I'm doing symphonic winds, which is a 0 period, so I have 8 classes, so then I also have an elective during the day.
Yeah, about 80% of the PACE freshmen and sophomores do a competitive sport sometime during the year, and that's their PE. It's still around 80%?
It depends on the year, but yeah. Even
70-ish,
in the senior year,
80-ish?
it's like
Yeah.
65, 70.
And in a typical year, about half of them are music. Choral instrument.
Why does Poly not have uniforms?
We get that question a lot, and basically, we just don't want them, We just don't want them. We have dress codes, and the students get to express their individuality. It just is not, it's not something that has ever really appealed to the administration or the faculty or the students, so.
How about the parents?
Well, the parents would have to come run the school, and maybe that's a good idea, but
There's legal
It's just
issues
not what
with,
we do.
there's legal issues with dress codes in high school because when a kid turns 18, they theoretically have a choice to opt out. What the district has done, they've allowed 2 schools to have dress codes, and the idea is, or uniforms, I'm sorry, uniforms, forgive me. And the idea is